Hello, my name is Tara. I'm going to do an audio description of myself. I am a black person, um, big black afro hair, wearing a shimmery, see-through, starry night thing, gold sequin skirt with pockets. That bit's very important, and blue lipstick. Welcome to We Were Always Here. I describe myself as a black, fat, femme, non binary crip film curator. And generally, I don't know what I'm doing. um, the journey of the event is actually quite a long one. It was supposed to happen in 2020 when I was assistant programmer. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it was cancelled. And 2 years later, I finally had the time and the spoons to finally put this thing together. So I'm really glad you're here to see it. So as there's not a lot of film curators who get to do any kind of work who look like me, live like me, on benefits, trying to figure this stuff out. And, putting this event together, finding the history of queer disabled film is actually really tricky. Um, I think things can be poorly archived, they can be hidden, but I also think a lot of time hidden in plain sight. And being a film curator is really hard when you're surrounded by the elitism and the sort of unspoken rules and society rules from a very white, very able-bodied film industry. So yeah, don't always know what I'm doing. I'm always amazed that things come together. But I think most people are like that as well. We kind of use our instincts and such to help us guide us along the way for a life that no one designed for. And when I think about my instincts, I try to think about what I do without thinking, because if I let all the bigotry and ableism, all the fat phobia and racism take me down, I would never even be here in the first place. So I guess what I want to do today is maybe start a conversation, maybe build up some community. There's queer, disabled people out there everywhere, and we are creative, and we've always been here making things and being at the center of everything. And yeah, and possibly, but I think the most important thing to know is that I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. Everything we need to know is already out there. So hopefully on the way in, you were given a little zine, a little bit of paper. So I made that for everyone to take home, but also it's not complete. You'll see that it has the 10 principles of disability justice and with little add-ins from me. And it shows that our struggles are interlocked and connected. And when we support each other, we actually are a much greater force than people will underestimate us to be. And but also in terms of being at the center of things. Slide. So, you know who this is. This is Marsha P. Johnson. So Marsha P. Johnson had physical and psychological disabilities, and with Sylvia Rivera founded STAR, the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. And what they did was actually multifaceted. It wasn't just about one thing. It was about support and activism for homeless trans people. And Marsha P. Johnson was regularly arrested and subjected to medical treatments without their permission. And working with queer youth groups, they demanded that queer and trans people should get free access to whatever therapy and whatever medical resources they need. They argued that health providers should understand how experience of oppression causes disabilities. Next slide. And then this is Silvera. And I guess I want to mention this because Sylvia Riviera and Marsha P. Johnson were one of the first people to throw things at Stonewall. They've been activists and sort of helped birth this whole LGBTQIA movement. And both of them wanted to fight for disabled people as well as trans people and homeless people. They already knew that these things were connected even before the disability justice principles were created. Next slide, please. So this person is Bobby Lee Bennett, and she drove from San Francisco to Washington, so 2,630 miles, to protest and demand money from Medicare to pay for her gender confirmation surgery. They said they would do it and then changed their minds. She mobilized the community around her, and she used her wheelchair to to set up those barriers and to just really harass them until they gave her that money. So it's just these little things in between of what people will do and how they link queerness disability. And I feel like it does connect to film, because I feel like at the center of culture is also film. And I'm sure that there are so many queer disabled films that are out there that we may have even watched that sort of show that life, because we sort of live it instinctually, you know? Queer history is hidden. Trans history is hidden. Disabled history is hidden. And when I look into history, I call it history activism, because I'm always loving when I discover these pockets of resistance and action. So I think of like the Black queer icons of the blues. I will assume queerness because normative historians are so quick to dismiss us. So, we really were always here. And with talks from Alison and Theresa, we hear more about the culture of film or festivals, what we want to change, what we think has been done right. And at the end of that, we'll have a discussion. And I hope you'll all be involved to talk about that, have questions. And don't forget, in the zine, at the end, there's a place for you to make your mark, whether you want to respond to what's been said, do your own doodles or things, because you might be feeling a little bored. But whatever you do, or maybe you want to plan your own event, and just, if you can, upload it to social media and tag it with hashtag BFI Flare. That would be awesome, just to have that post-event impact that shows that something did happen. Without further ado, that I am going to introduce Alison Smith. Alison Smith is scientifically a badass. She's been doing amazing stuff within film and disability activism for many, many years, and I can't wait what they have to say. So take it away.
Hi everybody. Can you hear me okay through the mic? Is that clear enough? Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to describe myself first of all. I'm a white woman, obviously Scottish. I've got mousy, messy, brown and white coming through grey hair. I've got glasses that are tortoiseshell with red edgings. I'm wearing a black, probably very see-through lace blouse. I didn't realise until I got here how bad it was anyway. And a black sort of purple skirt with stripy green and black tights and big boots. I describe myself, I sit in many camps. I'm a disabled woman. I'm deaf. My accent, my voice is only good because my parents put me through elocution lessons for the majority of my school days. So I don't sound deaf, even though I am severely deaf in both ears. I didn't learn BSL until I was 24, which says a lot about our education system that denies me and others who are deaf of our right to sign language and communication. I've spent the whole of my career in the arts really doing what I can to fight and make sure that we have our voice and our place. So I've done a lot of everything from project managing disability arts organisations to when I moved back to Scotland, I fell into working for Scottish Queer International Film Festival as an events coordinator, then access coordinator, and then I basically started pestering the hell out of the funders, like why wasn't it improving things? And so Script really sort of led the way on that literally for 9 years. So I've got a few things to say about that. Before I start with the slides, I'm going to just say very briefly what I did. I've been a performance poet, I've worked in project management, and then I've now gone into a new role of working in TV and film as an access coordinator. So I keep doing things to try and change the system, and that includes working for the funders. So I've got a few things to say about that. I'm going to start with some of the boring bit about exactly how much money it's worth in Scotland. I'm just going to do a full Scottish perspective. So some of the figures I wanted to highlight is that the screen sector in Scotland by 2030 is going to be worth about $1 billion. And my big question is, like, where do we fit in that? Like, whether we're filmmakers or as audiences. And then if you look at halfway down this slide, has got a map of Scotland where all the film festivals are. There's 27 of them across Scotland and more. But the film festivals alone are worth 7.4 million. So where are we in that in terms of whether we're being represented on screen, whether we're being represented in terms of being employed, whether we're being represented in the audiences, where is the in terms of what it means for audio description screenings, caption screenings, BSL interpreted events, and so on. And we're missing because if the access isn't there, I'm not going to go, and neither will anybody else. So there's a real challenge there about what it means for us in Scotland. And I'll give you an illustration. This is all the logos of different film festivals that have happened in Scotland, and I've been access coordinator on quite a few of them. So Squiff really led the way from 2015. I got involved in 2015, and it was 100% captioning or subtitle films. And then over the years improving the number of audio description films. But then every single event that we have a Q&A or an introduction to had BSL interpretation. So the big challenge is like Squiff led the way, and then all the other film festivals. Scotland being small, it's easy to talk to each other, and then we just started demanding more of the funders. Then so most of those film festivals get funding from Screen Scotland. So I did the next best thing. If I couldn't get them to coordinate it nationally, I joined Screen Scotland. So I was the Equality, Diversity Inclusion Officer for 2 years with Screen Scotland, and my main job was to write the Scottish equivalent of the BFI diversity standards pilot, which is happening at the minute. And the big thing that I wanted to see that we could do was to get as many of what is us as underrepresented into the criteria. So if you're disabled, you're more likely to be in employment. If you're from the LGBT community, you're undisabled, you're more likely to be unemployed. If you're deaf and disabled or neurodivergent, we get more and more barriers against us if you've been through the care system. Whether your first language at home is not English, you get more and more barriers as to employment, to education, to access to creative and cultural events, and so on. So when I was doing this job, I was really trying to see, well, who's missing? How can we get everything in, even from a very legal context, and go beyond what is the Equalities Act? So as a deaf, disabled, queer woman from Fairground Show people, I'm really proud that I'm one of the few people that was able to work on this and just really try and make that difference. So I like stirring things up. So being able to get this criteria into a funding system really shows that what's possible and what we can do. Okay, I'm going to do just a wee bit of a plug here. This is how we can practically change things. So if every single film festival had a caption file or subtitled file, audio description file, then there's no reason why every single film festival can't be 100% captioned or audio described. And this database sidecar, which was funded and supported by a combination of Matchbox Cinema, Film Hub Wales, Inclusive Cinema, Film Hub Scotland, and the Independent Cinema Office. So it shows that if you just bring a bunch of people together, we can come up with some solutions like sidecar. It only got launched last March. So if you are a filmmaker, please caption your film or subtitle your film. Please do an audio description track. Script Festival demands that every single film that is submitted has a captioned audio described file. We expect that. So there's no reason why BFI Flare can't follow suit. The more it becomes standard, the more it becomes normal. Simple. My last slide is really a visual representation of all the different access measures that Scriff has been doing since we first started, so over 9 years. When we brought in the sliding scale ticket scheme, we actually made more money. So it shows that you can actually make cinema experiences available for free, no questions asked. We had a travel scheme so that we could give people support to get to and from venues. If you're an asylum seeker where you get less than £5 a day and travel for 1 day travel pass in Scotland, across Scotland is nearly a fiver, you're not going to be able to get anywhere. You're not going to get to Scriff. So we made sure we had a travel scheme. We had bean bags. We had a quiet room. I mentioned about the cinema experience itself, but then it's a bigger picture of how do we encourage audiences and engage. And a new role was created of Access Engagement Coordinator, and then we split that role so that we had a disabled deaf coordinator, and we also had someone working through LGBT Unity to support people of colour queer people of colour to come to the festival. During COVID lockdown, we all went online. We had data cards. Digital poverty is a real issue, and just because you've got a mobile phone doesn't mean that you're going to be able to access everything. So you have to keep pushing the boundaries and keep putting this through. So my challenge really in the provocation here is that if you want to be fully accessible, the funders are going to have to pay for it and expect it of festivals. They should, if it means you don't fund festivals because they're not doing it, great. It means there's more money available to go to the ones that will do it. And then the other flip side of that is how are you monitoring it? BFI should be doing this, as far as I'm aware or not, and the same within Scotland, we should be monitoring it. So, but that to start, and I'm going to end with, there's a short film from Dickie Hartz, who was in Tales of the City on Netflix. He played the butler to Dee Dee, his name as a character Mato, and the film is called Death vs. the Dead. So it's my little bit of a provocation of what you can do with creative captioning.
Yo, there's people in here. Do not disturb.
Leo, is that you? Cut it out.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Where is he?
I don't think it's a good idea for you to see him right now.
No. Where is Leo?
He's in the bathroom.
Okay, I'm going to see
No,
him.
no.
Zombies?
Zombies!
You know, disabled people sometimes can't attend an event because stuff happens. So we were going to have a panelist called Kyla Harris. She's super cool. She was at the Busting the Bias film event about a week or so ago, which is BFI's Disability Film Festival, if you know about it. So she is a disabled woman of color, a filmmaker, an activist, an artist, and also a reality TV show addict. We bonded a lot around Traitors when we met for the first time. She's worked with Bird's Eye View, which is now called Reclaim the Frame, Filmmakers for Disabilities, or FWD, who is someone you should definitely check out. They are a coalition of people working to make film more accessible and to help filmmakers who are disabled to make the films they want to make. She's currently writing a TV series with Channel 4 and making a feature film, so watch this space. So what should be happening in a second is we're going to show you a clip of It's Personal. So it was commissioned by Film Umbrella and basically asks, can you train your friend to be a carer in a week during the COVID pandemic? So it's called It's Personal by Kyla Harris and with her friend Lou. And they swap cameras for catheters as Lou moves into Kyla's house during the pandemic and filmed in a reality TV show style to see if Lou can learn to be a carer for Kyla in that week. It gave a really interesting perspective on the crisis of care, of sort of, queer friendship and the ways that we can and should be caring for each other.
I'm an artist and a writer. I require 24-hour care from personal assistants. I call them PAs. I had to set up my own personal assistant business, but I never wanted to be a boss. All of my life I felt like an outsider because I experienced racism as a kid, and on top of that, ableism as an adult.
I met Kyla about 5 years ago as part of a group art project. And if you've got anything else, burning about today, got any feelings, especially if they're dramatic or exaggerated?
Yeah, I think we should be friends.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm a camera person, so I work really long hours and I barely have time for myself, let alone anybody else. I don't really have balance in my life and I struggle to open up about my feelings. Me and Kyla were making a documentary together.
Looking at how people are just realizing that we're interdependent and that, independence is a myth.
But then the COVID-19 pandemic hit and changed all our plans.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe.
This is the worst public health crisis for a generation.
All the airports are shutting down and I can't get back to my family and I don't really know what to do because several of my PAs have quit or are unwell, and I have always relied on my family for my backup care, but I'm shielding and I don't know what to do. Since the pandemic began, I don't have enough PAs to cover all of my care. Because Lou and I get along so well, I asked her to train as my PA, but she's never seen my personal care.
We've set up this challenge for me to learn how to be a PA in 7 days, and I'm going to film it all.
So this is Theresa Heath, this amazing person on the left. Theresa, she is a postdoctoral researcher at Loughborough University, London. She has written about access and reclamation of space at queer film festivals, as well as representations of disability and chronic illness in film and media. She is currently researching disabled social and economic access at festivals and cultural events, so obviously absolutely perfect to talk about that. And she has a lot of film knowledge, so take it away.
Thank you, Tara. I also wanted to add something to something you were saying earlier. You were saying about how you didn't really know what's going on, but my experience of working with Tara is that she very much knows what's going on and is incredibly brilliant at this kind of thing and very competent. So I think that if you weren't going to big yourself up, I wanted to do that. I should also big up Alison as well, who I'm also known for many years, and who is also like the most incredible access coordinator. And I'm actually going to be talking about the work that you've done on Squiff. So there was a little bit of overlap between some of what Alison has said and some of what I'm going to say, but I'm mostly drawing attention to the brilliant work that you did as the access coordinator. All right, so as Tara said, my name's Theresa Heath. I'm a film and media and creative industries academic with a specialist interest in queer film festivals and politics of access. I'm also a former queer film festival producer. Tara and I ran an event several years ago. Physically, I'm a slim white woman with Mediterranean features, dark brown and bronze hair, and very expressive hands and face, a bit like a Fraggle. Today, I'm going to just imagine a kind of Fraggle talking about film research. Today, I'm going to draw on research conducted as part of my doctoral thesis and soon to be book, which looked at queer film festivals and space, and also from a new project I'm working on concerning accessibility at festivals and events. Do also please excuse my slightly hoarse voice. This is my 4-day Campari and BFI Flare voice. So apologies for that. So during this little talk, I want to outline why access is a queer issue and why I think queer film festivals can play a vital role in the fight for disability justice by modelling more accessible and equitable worlds. So one of the things I find so powerful about film festivals is the way in which they encompass both representational and material space. That is to say, the space of the film world and the physical space of the festival. I'm fascinated by the way these spaces interact and how they influence and inform one another. It's through the relationship between these spaces, real and imaginary, that I believe radical and accessible utopias can be formulated. So, in Western visual cultures, disablement often signifies queerness and vice versa. With my students, I often use the example of the quintessential Bond villain, who is almost always disabled or has facial or bodily difference, and who is often coded as queer. So, for example, in the 2012 Skyfall, Javier Bardem's disfigured baddie is portrayed as something of a dandy who flirts with Bond and has serious mummy issues. One of my favourite examples, however, is from animation, where quite a lot has been written about the queerness of Disney villain Scar from The Lion King. Literally Google it, it's amazing. People have put together cut together clips emphasising his queerness. Literally named for his difference, Scar's effeminate gestures, less muscular body and high camp are contrasted against the more masculine lions like Mufasa. So I'd like to show a very short clip which I think really highlights this conflation of queerness, physical difference and camp, and which is also quite fun. Could I have the first clip, please? So, if you have 5 minutes, do Google queer disabled villains. A lot comes up. And what shows us is that on screen, to be disabled often means to be not quite right in terms of sexual orientation or gender presentation. Meanwhile, to be heterosexual is to be strong, healthy, and normatively abled. So let's now move from representational space to physical spaces. In the UK, as I'm sure many of you know, there is very little state support for cultural and social venues wishing to improve access, and access provision at arts and cultural venues is patchy and inconsistent. For example, while many cinemas are now wheelchair accessible, wheelchair users often report not being able to sit with wheelchair-using friends. Audio description for blind and partially sighted audiences is slowly becoming more widely accessible at larger cinemas, although this is arguably due to perceptions of this technology as not interfering with sighted audiences' experiences. Meanwhile, aesthetic factors are often cited as an argument against mandatory inclusion of closed captions on films, and there has been little consideration within the industry of audience members with less visible forms of disability, such as chronic pain and fatigue, which is something I live with, and or neurodiversity. Indeed, the cinema may be one of the most hostile places on earth for those with neurodiversity, and there have been widely reported incidents of neurodivergent audience members being asked to leave screenings due to perceived inconsiderate or non-normative behaviours. Film festivals are rooted in both visual culture and the material locations of cinema, spaces where, as we can see, discourses of disability and access are negotiated and contested. So I want now to draw on some examples to demonstrate the ways in which queer film festivals can start to change the narrative, and I will begin with very early editions of BFI Flare, formerly London Lesbian and Gay Film Festival, but originally dubbed Gays Own Pictures. So the brilliantly titled Gays Own Pictures of 1986 was conceived at a time of rising homophobia as a result of the AIDS crisis, and 2 years before the infamous Section 28 was enacted by the Conservative government. This banned the promotion of homosexuality and ensured that generations of state school children would receive no education regarding non-heterosexual orientations. This homophobic legislation was strongly contested by early curators of the festival. As Penny Ashbrook and Mark Finch stated in the 1988 programme, unlike the supporters of Section 28, the organisers of this programme aren't sure how you set about promoting homosexuality, but we're happy to try. Early editions of the festival explicitly tied queer activism to AIDS activism, incorporating a high degree of AIDS cinema in the programme in a bid to combat negative stereotypes and misinformation. What is interesting is how this also opened up a space for film dealing with disability and sickness. For example, so the 1992 short film programme, The Lesbian Body, so this was part of an edition of the festival called A Queer Feeling When I Look at You, London Lesbian and Gay Film Festival. The early editions had all these brilliant sort of prefixes, very sort of creative prefixes to their editions. So the 1992 short film programme, The Lesbian Body, exposed the ways in which bodies are marginalised in terms of connecting axes of disability, gender, sexuality and race. This programme included Valerie Tereshko's Human on My Faithless Arm, which explored the social pressures experienced by a deaf lesbian mother, and Jackie Duckworth's Prayer Before Birth, which documented the filmmaker coming to terms with multiple sclerosis as a black queer woman. Other work explored ways to endure in the context of the unfolding AIDS tragedy and engaged with issues of racist stereotyping within the queer community. So by bringing together representations of racism, ableism and AIDS-related homophobia, the programme made visible how these intersecting modalities work together to construct bodies as other. Unsurprisingly, access at the National Film Theatre at this time was rather basic, and there is no festival-specific access information in catalogues from this time. Nevertheless, what I think early editions of the festival do reveal is a community that was more connected and interdependent than at any time previously, and which framed disability as a queer issue. Instead of the rather segregated programming we see at many queer festivals today, programme themes cut across identity groups, attracting and assembling diverse attendees in the same room. This type of curatorial approach was indicative of a broader trend in lesbian and gay activism at this time, which saw queer women and men coming together to fight AIDS. And this is a quote from Lisa Duggan in The Twilight of Equality. So this is, of course, all not to say that 80s and 90s activism was faultless. And of course, you know, communities experienced many of the sort of challenges that we experience today, and some of the discrimination that we're still working, to sort of ameliorate today. But it's also important to note that there have been many setbacks and periods since where disability cinema fell off the radar of many festivals and the community as a whole. Rather, what I want to do is show how festivals like London Lesbian and Gay Film Festival laid some of the groundwork for evolving intersectional models of activism, and that this was partly a community response to the AIDS epidemic and homophobia at the time. While I would therefore characterise this response more in terms of an emergency rather than a utopian vision, I think it's important to highlight the role that queer film festivals have played historically in the development of queer disability politics. So let's move to the current moment. So as Robert McClure and Abby Wilkerson argue, this moment in the history of multinational corporate capitalism is a bad one for most people with disabilities. Karen Soldatic and Helen Mikosha similarly outline how the devaluation of the disabled body under late-stage capitalism is based on its inability or unwillingness to conform to narrow concepts of independence and meritocracy, which are founded on assumptions that all bodies are similarly capable. Indeed, as many critical disability theorists point out, the ideal body within capitalism is white, male, middle class, and above all, able. Within a supposedly meritocratic system, lack of or limited unemployment is seen as a private moral failure, and inadequate sums of money provided to disabled people on welfare literally assigns these bodies a low monetary value. Thankfully, accessibility within the arts and cultural industries is being put on the agenda thanks to the work of disabled campaigners and cultural industry workers, some of whom are on this stage tonight. This builds on a rich history of disability activism which gained traction in the 1970s and which challenges this neoliberal moment which demonises those in need of care or welfare support. So I was so interested to see Kyla's film, which is all about sort of, emphasising interdependence and care and support between people. There is also now an increasing understanding of access as a queer issue, and I think we're going to see that in Chrissy's film a bit later. I'm excited to see this kind of queer disabled politics put into action at queer film festivals and events, and so I wanted to share some instances where queer film festivals have deployed creative and innovative access strategies and thus provided a model or at least a glimpse of a more utopian and accessible world. So the festivals that I mention here do not expect disabled bodies to integrate into an able-bodied norm, but rather enact radical, disabled-centric access policies where disabled and diverse bodies, needs and abilities are placed at the centre of planning and where festival teams comprise large numbers of disabled people. As McCrure asserts, this type of critically disabled approach demands access to a newly imagined and newly configured public sphere where full participation is not contingent on an able body. When I speak of creative access strategies, I'm not necessarily referring to high-tech, elaborate and expensive interventions. I was telling someone today that I'm basically going to be talking about radical beanbags. So for example, we have a radical beanbag right here. For example, a range of queer film festivals today, such as Scottish Queer Independent Film Festivals, Alison talked about Squiff, Leeds Queer Film Festival and Fringe Queer Film and Arts Fest, provide alternative seatings in their auditoriums in the form of beanbags, sofas and soft cushions. So this allows those of us with chronic pain and or fatigue or other kinds of bodily difference to sit or lie in a more sustainable fashion. Generally, these festivals aim for a degree of flexibility with regards to seating arrangements so that audience members using manual and electric wheelchairs may sit where and with whomever they choose. And this is just a slide showing some of the accessible seating that Squiff includes in their festival and which basically enables people like Tara and I to sit for far longer than we would normally be able to do. I won't talk too much about Squiff, but as Alison mentioned, it's widely acknowledged in the industry as leading the way in terms of access. And Alison has talked about some of the provision that it includes. One thing I particularly liked about the last edition was that BSL interpreters circulated at social events, enabling better communication between hearing and disabled attendees. Since its inception in 2015, Squiff has built strong links, of course, with the Scottish deaf community and includes many deaf members of the team. So a queer disabled politics is mirrored in the programme. Squiff consistently programmes a high proportion of deaf and disabled queer cinema, both in specially dedicated events and across programming in general. This work has included ultra DIY short work by those such as queer disability activist Chrissy Mahan, who advocates for more accessible queer spaces, and the truly visionary documentary Yes We Fuck by Antonio Centeno and Raul de la Morena, which constructs a world in which interdependence and solidarity between communities is key and also very sexy. Please watch this film if you get the chance. It's completely amazing. The utopias imagined in this work are likewise manifested in the physical space of the festival, a creatively accessible environment where access is not dependent on having a particular type of body or mind. Here in London, I was delighted to see many access strategies put into practice at the recent Busting the Bias event at the BFI, a brilliant weekend programme of deaf and disabled cinema curated and produced by deaf and disabled industry professionals. I look forward to seeing these access measures incorporated as standard at all BFI events. So the access provision I have discussed not only improves accessibility at queer film festivals, but also helps to create a relaxed and communal atmosphere and enfolds able-bodied attendees into a disability-centric world, reversing the usual scenario where it is differently abled bodies who must adapt. None of the festivals included here require service users to provide proof of disability, and it is also likely that audience members who do not consider themselves disabled, but who may be experiencing temporary sickness, pain, or fatigue also benefit. This flexible approach complicates boundaries between abled and disabled and challenges welfare regimes which require proof of disablement according to narrow and highly visible notions of disability. As such, the nature of space and the relationship between bodies within that space is altered through a politics of inclusion which centres rather than marginalises the queer crip body. As Rosalind Galt and Carl Shanova remark, the Queer Film Festival not only reflects the world, but actively makes and remakes worlds. So I'm on to my final remarks, which should take about a minute. So I teach an access workshop on film curation module at London College of Communication, which encourages students to develop creative access policies for their own screen events. I'm really encouraged by the enthusiasm of these industry professionals of the future and look forward to them joining those in industry who are currently working so hard. One thing I always say to them, however, is not to be disappointed if there is initially low uptake of your shiny new access measures. Disabled people, particularly those with complex needs, are so used to being excluded from cultural spaces that many are discouraged from attending or are simply unable. Providing access measures and mentioning them in the programme is unlikely to be enough. Outreach and building a diverse audience and team can take a long time. We are trying to change a long established culture of exclusion, and this won't happen overnight. But as I say to my brilliant, inspiring students, even if after all of your outreach, your access uptake is not what you hoped, you are still doing something important to change the culture around access to the arts. And these drops will one day become an ocean. Cheesy but true. Don't be discouraged because in your own small way, you are starting to build utopia.
So we got one more film to show before we have a discussion and maybe questions from the audience. So we're going to show the film Faggot Girl Gets Busy in the Bathroom by Chrissy Mahan. Chrissy has been making DIY films for like 20 years and uses really just creative techniques using dolls, using like preschool toys, stop motion animation, and argues very strongly that accessibility is a queer issue, and queer film festivals can feel like a utopia, right? Everyone's coming together, we've got this stable space, but is it a utopia if disabled people are not involved? I can't get enough of myself. what was your response to Kyla's film, Chrissy's film, just, the clips we got to watch today?
I think it comes back again, the big question of seeing ourselves on screen and whether it's a positive or negative experience. And it always comes back to that. I've been the amount of times I've saw it through films and cringed or the very minimal, got cringed at what's on screen, or got upset, or even better, you see something where you see yourself on screen and you come out and go, thank you, or it makes me laugh, or it makes me feel loved, or it makes me feel part of it. And I think there's always that sort of mixed bit. You don't know what you're going to expect to see. And then a big thing for me is the minute I see a programme for a festival, I'm immediately having to scan as to see what access is available. So I'm quite struck with the fact that BFI Flare, yeah, great, you've got quite a number of audio description films. Why are they all on programme for the same day? Why would you expect someone to sit through about 5 to 7 hours of screenings in one session? It's just unrealistic. So there's always that thing around what's been programmed, when are the events on, can I get to the open gala? Well, no, because it's not accessible for me. So I think those are very fundamental questions that we're having to do from the very beginning before I can even go, oh, right, what are they showing? What am I going to see? What would I like to see? I don't want to be there on a Sunday afternoon or 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning like they used to do in Telford at the local cinema, So I think there's a big fundamental question around when it's been programmed, what's been programmed, and am I going to be seeing a positive representation of myself on screen? So when I got asked to do a square, we programmed a queer disabled porn night. It was packed, by the way, 174 seats full, and then doing a Q&A with Laurie Erickson afterwards, which was brilliant. The event was captioned as well, and not just in terms of the Q&A, but the whole event. And then that was turned into a blog post. So I think there's ways that we can be very creative with accessibility of how we're represented on screen, but take it beyond.
I agree. I just wanted to say, I think in relation to Kyla's film, we have seen in this sort of, intensely neoliberal moment, the increasing devaluation of disabled bodies and any bodies that are, do not fit a very sort of narrow norm. And, particularly we see this narrative that demonizes people who need, who need to access the welfare state or who need care from other people. And, part of neoliberal ideology is this emphasis on independence, and this decentering of community. So what I loved about Kyla's film was the way it actually foregrounded and centered care. And it, framed care in a very empowering way, and a very kind of there was a real emphasis on community. It's how Kyla talked about her dynamic in relationship with her carers. And I think this is so important, is just recentering this idea of interdependence and deprivileging this idea that in order to be an ideal human, you must be 100% independent, whatever that means, because we all need other people and we all need types of care in one way or the other. And so I just really, really love to see that, and I can't wait to see the rest of the film.
Thank you.
Can I add on to that? What's really quite important is that we are still dealing with the trauma of coming out of COVID. There are still people who are still shielding, who are not going to be able to get to events and are totally relying on accessing stuff online. So I think we need to keep the bigger picture in here, and also the fact that we're dealing with in a country where we've got a government that is basically wanting to disable us further, and the narrative that has been played out in the press, which makes us out to continue to be benefit scroungers, that we're not worthy in society, we're not contributing to society. So I think there's a bigger picture at play that we have to sort of navigate within that.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
was quite struck by seeing Kara's film, where that very vulnerability of what it means to have personal care, and then what that means in terms of, like, they're not even going to pay the minimum wage. I mean, I didn't realise that, but I was just like, what? We've got Scotland who brought a whole conversation around fair pay and having a proper living wage, and I think that should, that comes into it as well.
Yeah, you think about the strikes that are happening right now, and solidarity to the tube strikers today, I believe, because I don't think people can realize that like they're all just trying to get fair treatment. And also what's happening a lot within cultural agencies is that they are trying to push the people into something called a self-reliant mode, whatever the hell that means. So I guess that means that cultural organizations are purely for profit and not for the good of the people, and not for people who are seen as less productive and less valuable, that would be disabled and marginalized folks. But I also know that these things can change, and that these things are not set in stone because we're here right now. Yeah. And I was thinking as well about, we talk a lot about progress and what we've seen. I think maybe like apart from stuff we've talked about, is there other representation or other films or structures you've seen that have really excited you about regarding to queer disabled film? I saw something on Facebook called Gasp, but it comes with an exclamation mark, and it's a horror film festival in Manchester, and it's actually an intersectional horror film festival. So one of the first films is, I think it features trans women of colour, and I think it's like a film of revenge, witchiness. It looks amazing. The venue it's in, called Cultplex, seems to be a tiny indie cinema, and all the films they show are captioned as standard. And it's just really simple things like that that you want to have more support. Yeah.
And it's about, like, sort of, witching on about in my talk, it's about, like, instead of disabled people having to fit into an able-bodied norm, it's about making disabled access sort of central, so that actually, the dynamic is the opposite, so that actually, those of us who are hearing just become, as in many countries in the world, become used to seeing captions on films and realise it's not going to completely destroy your cinematic experience. I'm a film scholar, and I don't think it, it doesn't have to detract from that. And so I think it's, about just making it standard, and then people will get used to it, because, for many, many, many people in the world who don't have English as a first language, much of their cinema is captioned anyway, and it doesn't seem to bother people too much.
And I think people forget that when you do access for marginalised people, it affects everybody, it's in that it helps everybody. And you don't know who you're helping when you're putting captions and audio description, ramps, comfortable seating, quiet room spaces. You don't know who you're helping. So to imagine to have this sort of very probably negative image of who you think is going to be that is not part of it.
Can I ask Alison a question?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Alison, a bit more about, so when you were sort of, the access officer at Squiff, what sort of went into that lovely, or how did you set about creating that quiet space? Because it's just so wonderful in there, and it's one of my favourite bits about the festival, and I thought maybe you could talk a bit about what it is, what you put there, why you did it, and why it's so important to have those kinds of spaces as well. Because I think it's quite a revolutionary space of rest.
Yeah, the first year that we had the quiet room, ironically, I was able to, just by chance, find out that there was an arts organisation that had a lock-up full of bin bags and 80 cushions. So we literally, begged, stealed and borrowed as many cushions and bin bags as we could get between Tramway, which is in the south side of Glasgow, and Cryptic, which is basically CCA. And it was literally a conversation. And then it just by chance, those red bean bags matched with the blinds in the space. So it was about creating the atmosphere. It was about getting lights from IKEA that we could fold up and put in a bag, and we could bring them out the following year. And then when it moved space, it then was about, well, we need some, not just cushions, you need to keep warm. So I was just bringing all my blankets in. So the whole thing is about, well, what would make it as a home for home? So that if you were in that noisy environment, it's overstimulating, you're trying to manage pain, where are you going to go to just have that 10, 15 minutes of just a complete rest? So that was the the sort of thing behind it. And then we bought noise cancellation headsets from Free Pride. We had various toys and distraction and colouring books and so on. So it was really just to sort of create a space that you could just use in whatever way you wanted. And what I will say, and you've just reminded me by talking through it, and I'm remembering what the space looked like. Someone actually went in and created a tiny little zine. And tucked right in this tiny zine was the access symbols. And it makes me well up now, even thinking about it, because I was just so touched that somebody actually decided to create that to say, this is what the space means to me. And in fact, that person came up and spoke to me 5 years down the line to tell us that they didn't feel they could even be verbal in a festival, and now they're at the stage where we're coming up and having a conversation with us. So I think it's about just creating that environment. It just makes a difference, and small sort of things go a long way. I'm a big fan of creative captioning. I love to see it being in a way where it's not just at the bottom. And I worked on one short film that as part of Artist Moving Image Festival where we were adding the captions, and I was going, do you know what's been said here? This is a poem. And then we spoke to the filmmaker and discovered actually, yeah, it was a poem. So the captions then appeared on the screen and on layers, and then we built the layer up until it then ran down the entire side. So it's about thinking about that audience, who's watching it, where they're going to see it, and is it going to add to the film rather than detract. So I'm a big fan of creative captioning, so come and talk to me if you want to know more. And as an academic in America, Sean Zedek, who's done a big whole narrative around captioning and the context and construct and how it adds and detracts from a film or TV programme.
I don't know about bursaries particularly, but I know my first thought was Filmmakers with Disabilities, which is spelled FWD. So they're an organisation that are literally about supporting disabled filmmakers. I wish I knew more. Honestly, I do find it very hard to find kind of bursaries or opportunities that are directly linked to helping disabled people. The BFI Film Fund has a target it's supposed to achieve with cast or crew and give them monetary support to making that film. But I don't always know how that is paid, and at the same time, I don't always see it represented in what comes out afterwards, unless I'm absolutely missing those films. But I think other people might agree with me, but please tell me if I'm wrong.
Having worked for Screen Scotland, I can talk about what's happening in Scotland. But yeah, again, BFI would be, in terms of England, would be your first port of call. In Scotland, we've got the Film Production Fund and Film Development Fund, but then there was also programmes to support emerging filmmakers through a programme called Short Circuit. So that also had a big access budget attached to it, thanks to me really having a go at them when I realised there wasn't an access budget, and they then created one. So I think it's fundamental that we have not just the funds to make the films, but then funds to support the access around it. And I think that all I can say is challenge the funders. Go to them, tell them what you need, and say this is our barriers. That's the only way we get change, really. So in Scotland, we've got the Short Circuit programme. We have GMAC support, underrepresented filmmakers through a smaller scale fund. With Screen Scotland, they've got the Film Festival Fund, and that also has guidance in there around accessibility in terms of all of what Scrift does. So they basically insist that that's what all the other film festivals have in place as well. So I suppose Scotland would be a bit ahead of the game, but then that was because Film Hub Scotland then put an access group together. So all the festivals were coming together. They were getting training, they were getting awareness training, they were getting told how to put budgets together in terms of different equipment, etc. So I think there's, that can be replicated here easily. You've got the Film Hub network, you've got the independent cinema, and these different And there's lots of various guides. Oh, Swift, Helen White from Swift got commissioned by Film Hub Scotland to write an accessible guide to film festivals. So, you know, there is resources out there, but it goes back to go to the funders, tell them what you need.
So before we go, I just wanted to say, if you can just briefly promote yourselves or maybe just say something. I always say this because people come, say really amazing, intelligent things and then disappear. And actually it's about building up those contacts. So, yeah, Alison, quickly promote yourself, what you're up to. Last words.
Well, I've gone off on a bit of side tangent of career where I'm now actually working as an access coordinator in TV and film production. So that's everything from advising on scripts right through to access audit of a set. Ramps come into it a lot, to supporting disabled cast and crew and doing an access passport, so we put an access rider together. So that's the sort of stuff I'm doing, but I'm also free and available to call upon me. I'm at Pesky People on Twitter and Pesky on Instagram.
I don't really have anything to promote, but I am starting a new project. So once I've got the book out of the way, which I have to write, once I have finished that, I'm starting a new project looking at disabled access at festivals and events. So if anyone has anything, well, just generally, if anyone would like to discuss anything or has anything they think is important in that respect, or wants to email me for a list of, you know, queer, disabled sort of films, anything like that, please do. My email was included on the slide, or you can use my new one, which is t.heath@elborough.ac.uk. That's LBORO. So yeah, so it'd just be nice to have conversations with people, and yeah, and maybe if there's something I've missed, yeah, of course, if there's something I've missed and you think, oh, she really should have mentioned this, or actually I know this thing that would be really interesting, please email me and let me know. Thank you. And thank you, Tara, for this. It's been great.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to say thank you, of course, to Theresa and Alison, making such good effort to, you know, produce these presentations, to have some clips shown, some clips not shown. I want to promote community building, community DIY queer film festivals. We all got involved because we love film, but we always saw that it didn't really always welcome us. And we built our own thing that created that welcome for us, our friends, and other people we never know we'd influence. So honestly, just start something small and you'll be surprised at what you'll find and who you'll find.